Hi, this is Christopher Clark, Town Administrator for the Town of Harwich. I'd like to spend a little bit of time today talking about the upcoming capital financing plan and capital budget for the next fiscal year. We are in the process of developing the capital plan and the capital budget, and we're kind of starting to hone in on some of the issues that we need to address. Really, one of the biggest issues that will be facing the community is how do we fund the wastewater plan. I guess first off, the positive news is that we've already almost completed in entirety phase one of the wastewater plan. Almost $6 million went towards the construction of the Muddy Creek Bridge, and most of that, approximately 75%, was paid by grant funds. So the town had to come up in partnership with Chatham, 50-50, on the bridge, had to come up with about $500,000 recently that was done through debt exclusion. The next part of the wastewater plan is really to get into the next phase, which is phase two. Now we're talking about in phase two doing a fair amount of actual infrastructure improvements. We have been doing mostly other alternative technologies like Muddy Creek Bridge, Cold Brook study, and now in order to really address the issue of how do we clean up nitrogen in the environment, we need to do that through the construction of sewers in the community. We have selected East Harwich as the place to start. The reason for that is because the plan calls for the use of the Chatham facility. We are still in negotiations with Chatham through an intermunicipal agreement, sometimes referred to as an IMA. We hope that the negotiations, I think, have been favorable, and hopefully we can bring those to a fairly rapid conclusion and have the plant accessible. Once we have the plant accessible, the next logical move would be to put the pipes in the ground. And the question was, why East Harwich? Well, East Harwich because, number one, Chatham already has the plant built, and number two, and probably as important, that we need to have East Harwich because we have a lot of our well fields, the actual wells that provide drinking water are in that area, so cleaning up that section of the environment first would have value. The other component is in terms of signing up with Chatham. Chatham is, they are part of the Pleasant Bay watershed, and they have an interest, as do we, in cleaning up the Pleasant Bay watershed. So in that circumstance, we do need to utilize those areas that are in the same watershed with Chatham, so that way their plant acts as a regional plant to help to clean the environment for Pleasant Bay. For us, it's not only Pleasant Bay, but the Sand Lakes area also is a tributary into the Pleasant Bay watershed. So just in terms of the sequencing and a little bit of the rationale. The next question is the phase two will cost over $31 million is what the estimate is at this point. And how do we make that accessible and fundable, if you would, for the average homeowner? One of the things that we are in the process, we've done some preliminary modeling. We are working with our financial advisor to do more detailed modeling, but we're going to look at how do you take that $31 million and the sequencing of when the payments need to be made, and can we feather that debt in? I know I've mentioned that term before, and I will hopefully in the next several weeks here be able to put some real flesh to that concept. But in essence, what we're doing is, as an example, the middle school was funded, the high school for Monomoy was funded through a debt exclusion. That is something, just as a reminder, that your regular property taxes come under Prop 2.5, and then communities can go above 2.5 through one of the vehicles is through debt exclusion. So you borrow money and then finance it over a period of time. So here we're doing that exact concept. We're going to be doing a debt exclusion. In terms of your tax bill, it's all grouped in one, so you just see the total amount of tax related to debt. What we'd like to do here is, as the Monomoy debt begins to be paid off, it's called a declining schedule. So it goes from a very high point in the first couple years to then gradually going down to zero after, I believe we have a 25-year schedule on that. Instead of having that tax money go away, what we're proposing to do is to keep the debt at a certain level, the debt payments at a certain level. So it's basically the equivalent of if you had a car that you leased or you had a car payment on, and when you run out of the car payments, you finish off those car payments, what do you do with that money? Here we're saying, instead of just having that money available for other purposes, we'd like to take that money and have it available for wastewater purposes. So we are in the process of seeing how that $31 million plus would be financed over a period of time. And when you take into account the decline in the debt service for Monomoy and the increase in the debt service for wastewater, can we keep it within the confines, if you would, of Prop 2.5? And what do I mean by that, within the confines of 2.5? Every year, Proposition 2.5 allows for budget growth to occur of 2.5%, so the budget tends to gravitate up. The 2.5% is a minimal number. We have new growth, which is, as I've mentioned in some of these videos, is when new properties come online, or a property that used to be a vacant piece becomes a piece with a house on it. Now that house counts as new growth. That's above and beyond Proposition 2.5. And our range for what our levy actually goes up is actually closer to 3 to 3.5% when you factor in the new growth element. So it's my belief that we will be able to keep pretty close to those targets in terms of doing the wastewater projects and keeping the financing within. Now, obviously, we can't just finance only the wastewater program and not have anything else occur. So one of the things we're doing in the analysis is to have in there what are some of the other projects that we're doing. So this year at the upcoming town meeting in May, we will be looking at doing Saquatucket Harbor, the land side. Last year we did the water side proposal. This is approximately $3 million. On the water side proposal, the $7 million on the docks. We have $1 million of that will come from grants. 75% of the balance will be paid out of fees. So that won't directly hit the taxpayer in terms of property tax, but will hit the boat owners in terms of fees. We do have some road projects that are on there again. This year it's $700,000. It's been a fairly consistent number. We do have a recommendation to include $150,000 for design-related work in West Harwich. Why fund $150,000? It'll be two payments, so it'll be $300,000 in total. That we hope to pony that design money into improvements from the Herring River to the Dennistown line, including some in the town of Dennis that Dennis will fund on its own. But by paying for the design money through our local revenues means that we would be eligible for transportation improvement program funds, federal funds that are channeled through the state to fund the actual construction of roadway improvements. So if you would, it's almost paying the town pays the down payment money. In return, the feds pick up the cost of the construction costs. So those are a couple of the larger items. We do have another one that's approximately $1.2 million for improvements to the golf course. The golf course improvements would be related to the creation of a cart barn and also some traffic reconfiguration, as well as some other work to maintenance sheds. In total, that would be about $1.2 million is the current estimate, and we do hope to get close to 90% of that. So the fees that the golfers pay will go towards the debt service of that project. So I know it's a little bit early in the process, but I wanted to give a little bit of an overview for kind of the form and function as to how we develop and how we work on the capital budget as we progress towards the May town meeting of 2017. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an overview. Christopher Clark, thank you for your time and attention.